Do not adjust your screen because yes, I am wearing a single short sleeve layer, short sleeve gloves, and I am feeling strong. Summer's back, baby. Good morning and welcome to an absolutely stunningly glorious and warm morning in Essex on a Sunday morning. Oh, rides don't start much better than this. It's 7 AM, it's 13 degrees, and it's due to get up to 20 degrees by the end of this ride. Woo! And even better news, I'm back on the road bike. Wonders never cease, although it did come with a few issues last night, which I'll get into later. Now, I don't know whether it's just the sun today, but I'm feeling particularly strong, although it could be something that I've started recently that I was going to talk to you about, but more on that later as well. But before we get into that, I'm just going to enjoy a few more miles of this ride, chatting to the lads, because there are a gaggle of us out today and we're heading off to yet another one of our favourite dining spots, Brett's Cafe over in the Rodings. Here's a stat for you. Do you know more people are killed by cows every year than sharks? True fact. Look it up.
Especially if the beef's not cooked well enough. I mean,
so that's what happens. I'm trying to give you facts and Stu's coming with the jokes. Well, we say jokes.
for context, mate.
The only problem with cows and warm weather and riding through the countryside is flies. How are you getting on with the protein diet?
Beautiful.
Nothing like picking a couple of flies out of your teeth that have only 5 minutes before been sat on a massive steaming pile of cow dung. Lovely. Right, well, back to this ride for a second. Yes, I'm back out on the road bike because I finally found time to fit the brand new wheel top shifter. If you watched my video from a few weeks ago where I had a few problems with that right shifter, you'll know I had to remove it, send it back to wheel top and get a replacement because unfortunately, no matter what they advised me to do, nothing was working. Ugh, flies. So yes, I did actually get the replacement through about a month ago, but what with the run up to the Dirty Reaver, trying to get ready for that, trying to get the bike ready for that, the gravel bike that is, yeah, I just didn't have much time to get it on. But I got it on late last night, and as you can see, it's so new, I haven't even taken the plastic off the lever yet. But in typical Treadway style, nothing I do is ever that easy. So I put the shifter on, I got it paired with the rear derailleur, thought that'll do. I didn't even need to bleed the brakes in the end because there was still enough pull on it. And then I thought, right, I know what normally happens here. I think, right, that's done. I put the bike inside the house ready for the next morning and I don't bother testing it. And then come the next morning, there's another problem. So I thought, right, I'll ride it around my garden for a little bit. So I did, and everything seemed to be working absolutely perfectly until I pulled the front brake at one point. There was a sudden metal on metal grinding sound. So I thought, yeah, that doesn't sound good. So I jumped off, had a look down at the brakes, and yeah, the resin part of the brake pad had just completely fallen off the backing. So cue me rummaging around in my garage trying to find a spare set of pads, which invariably I didn't have. So I ended up having to steal the L2 set off of the spare brake caliper I had over from when I built Jimmy's gravel bike a few weeks ago, and I had to swap the L2 caliper out for one of the mountain bike ones that was post mount. And despite the fact that that's L2 and this is wheel top, they seem to fit perfectly. But if I fail to brake on a very steep hill this morning, or I brake too hard and I go over the handlebars, well then I'll know that there's a problem with L2 and wheel top. But for now, it seems to be working perfectly. I have to say, it has been nice getting back on the road bike because as much as I love my gravel bike, which I've said many times in videos when I'm out on it, and it is very light for a gravel bike, it's only about 9.5 kilos, I think. This road bike feels entirely different. The cornering's really sharp. It just seems to run a lot smoother, which is no surprise given that it's on slicks and not big knobbly tyres like the gravel bike. But yeah, everything about it just seems sharp and stiff. And in this weather, all you want is a nice smooth ride. Even if you are eating the countryside supply of flies and getting them in your eye. That part of the road we've just come through is in stark contrast to another ride we did last year along this very piece of road when it was completely flooded out. Yeah, that ride was fun, but I think I prefer to ride in these conditions rather than those. As I've said a number of times, that's what I love about riding in the countryside, seeing all the nature. Jimmy would be absolutely beside himself if he was here, and he'll now be beside himself that he wasn't. Sorry, Jimbo. Right, well, I haven't just seen that wildlife. It's now time for breakfast. Hopefully venison isn't on the menu. Right, straight out of breakfast, straight into bike maintenance. I noticed this morning that Chris's bike had developed a bit of a knock. He thought it was from the bottom bracket, but it wasn't happening when he wasn't pedaling, so that clearly wasn't the issue. So I think it might be the cones in his rear tyre, because the back wheel is wobbling ever so slightly, and the axle, or the hole that the axle goes through, is a little bit loose. So I think his bearings might be a little bit dry and a little bit loose. I think the cup and cones probably need a little bit of tightening. I was a little bit concerned riding behind him earlier because it sounded like the noise was coming from my bike, and it was a fairly nasty sounding noise, but hopefully it's fairly minor and should be easily fixable. But weather update, it's now 23 degrees. Woo, it is warm. But importantly, I'm not complaining because look at where we are. Although you might be able to hear in my voice, yeah, the hay fever has started coming on. When one door opens, another one closes. So back on the point of what I actually wanted to talk to you about today, and seeing those cows earlier was actually quite apt, because for the last week or so I've been, and if you'll excuse the pun, beefing up. I put a video out a couple of months ago of Jimmy and I talking about the best ways to stay fit and live longer in your late 40s and 50s. And one of the things we discussed in there was weight training. Now, Jimmy's been doing that for quite some months now, in fact almost a year or so, and it has definitely improved his general fitness, because when he did the Norfolk Marathon a couple of months ago, he ended up finishing it in 3 hours and 14 minutes. And he was the fastest in the 40 to 49 age category, and at 49 years old there were probably some very upset 44-year-olds in that category. So, taking a leaf out of his book, I finally dusted off the weights the other day and started to do a little bit of weight training. I've not done too much so far, just a little bit of arms, a little bit of chest, and most importantly for the bike, a little bit of legs as well. Never skip leg day. And through that, I've actually lost a little bit of weight because I've been eating a little more healthily as well. I'm back on the intermittent fasting, so trying to fast for 16 to 18 hours a day. And when I am eating, yeah, I've cut out all the crap. No crisps, no chocolate, plenty of protein, and trying to cover all the main food groups. And to be honest, as much as I've been putting that off for a long time, it's really not that difficult. And within a week, I've started to notice the difference, and I've lost, believe it or not, just over half a stone, which is needed because I've got a few big rides coming up in the next couple of months. At the end of May, in a few weeks' time, I've got a trip to Tuscany coming up. Unfortunately, not just to ride a bike, I do have a wedding to shoot over there. But while I'm there, I thought, well, why not take the opportunity, hire a bike, and get out and see some of those beautiful Tuscan views. So I'm very much looking forward to that. But then, just a week after that, comes the dreaded North London dirt ride again. And I definitely need to up my fitness for that, because last year I was an absolute shower, although it didn't help that my bike fell apart. So this year, with my brand new carbon fibre gravel bike, I'm hoping I should fare a lot better. And then once that's done, just 2 weeks later, we're riding from Cardiff to London over 2 days. A total mileage of about 230 miles. And again, that one's going to be a toughie, because we aren't just heading directly west to east, because I planned the route, and of course, we had to take in a few climbs. So we're going to be doing Cheddar Gorge, and then there'll be a couple, I think, of Simon Warren's 100 greatest climbs in there as well, and most of them come within the first 100 miles, so that's going to be a tough old first day. So yeah, I've got a few decent rides coming up over not even the next couple of months, over the next few weeks, and my current fitness level is, yeah, woefully poor. It's nowhere near ready for pretty much any of them. And then add to that the fact that Jimmy has signed me up for this 6-hour endurance run just before Christmas. There's going to be a lot of training going on across the summer into the autumn, and sadly even the winter. But going back to the weight training, hopefully that should see me in good stead, because as I say, Jimmy has definitely been seeing benefits from it, so fingers crossed I get the same. But what about you guys? What sort of off-bike training do you do to keep yourself in peak physical condition? Chris has just mentioned that he's done Cheddar Gorge twice on Ruby, and that seems to be working for him. There's probably something in that, because as Jimmy always says, The only way to get better at climbing hills is to climb more hills. Right, there you go. What have we done? 53 kilometers. So what's that, about 31, 32 miles, something like that. And it's finished off at 25 degrees. I mean, I know I like going on about the weather, but it was bloody warm today. But more importantly, let me know what you are doing to make yourself stronger for any big summer rides that you've got planned. And let me know what the big summer rides are, because I always love reading your comments and seeing what you guys are up to throughout the year. And hopefully your protein intake is more than just flies next to a field. Right, well on that note, I am gonna go and give this bike a good wash down and then probably try and wax the chain again, because yeah, I've been off this bike for about 2 months now and it's clear that the chain needs a proper good cleaning and re-waxing. So that's my job for Sunday afternoon. But if you're heading out on your bike today, I hope you have a beautifully sunny one like this and you get very many sunny miles under your belt. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this one interesting and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys.